Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, it's my co-host, frankly, my best achievement in life. It's Tom. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, friends.
Tom, glad to have you along as always, but also joining us today, a man I'm very happy to have back on the show, a man who I love that in the shot that we're about to cut to, you literally are like about to be toppled on by a mountain of terrain, which is very appropriate. It's Steve Wren. How you doing, Steve?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Vince. How you doing?
I'm great, man. It's good to have you back on the show. We're going to be talking about Warhammer Achievements. We're going to be talking about Blood and Glory, and we're going to have a little debut of a new segment today we're calling In the Workshop, where we're going to take a smaller portion of an army and we're going to talk it through, because as Steve and I were conversing before the show, he was talking about some challenges he was having with Tzeentch heroes since the Lord of Change price change.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And you had like a flight. You have a flock of Lords of Change, famously, right? And so now the question is, what do we do? What do we do when Steve's Lords of Change are like 1,700 points for all four of them now?
You know what?
Yeah.
I still think there's some mileage in the list, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, that's a tough one to fit into a list. So we're gonna workshop some Tzeentch heroes later today as well. But first off, we've got some news, and I'm gonna say some news. I mean some.
Well, that's stretching it. What I would say is that we have a rumor engine.
Sure, as always, it does, and I've got it handy, Tom. How about that?
I'm sure that GW made this this article just so that we would actually get to report on something each week.
Absolutely. Thanks.
I think it's for us. Thanks, GW.
Yeah. So it's a machiney thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now begins the guessing. Steve, what is this?
What do I think? Could be anything. It looks 40k, in which case my knowledge is completely like zero, pretty much when it comes to that. It's what would I say? Some sort of speeder, maybe.
Okay.
Chaos. Yeah, it's kind of got that vent thing. Dark Angel. Oh, I don't know. Could be anything. Could be terrain. Could be a part of the sector. Is it the Sector Imperialis, the terrain set? It's got that kind of feel about it, maybe.
Sure. Or like yeah, a little bit. Tom?
I'm gonna go with some type of hover or grav tank.
Okay.
Because like right in the middle above your arrow looks like a repulsor.
Yep.
Like that looks like an engine. The round port in the top left maybe is somewhat Sector Mechanicus-y. Like see the top left of the image where like the moon thing.
Yeah, this up here.
Yeah, that looks like either the edge of one of the symbols or one of the ports. So I don't know. That's what I'm gonna go with.
Okay. I actually agree with you. I think it is some kind of hovering tank, and I think it's an Imperial tank, and I'll tell you why. These vents are on a lot, like these vents are very similar to stuff on a lot of the knights, a lot of things like that shape. This is a very sort of Imperial things tend to have mechanical venting like this. Like it's not a Eldari thing or any of that kind of crap, right? They don't vent out of combustion style engines or whatever, right?
Got it.
And it has this feel, this rounded feel, but it's also solid color. There's not like a lot of damage or scratchy or weird things that would look like a chaosy thing.
Or an orky thing.
Or an orky thing. Like this is clearly painted, right? You can tell, and it's painted in a fairly dark color. Because you can tell how it's contrasting against the steel.
I'm saying it's blue.
So I was gonna go dark angel green.
It could be. This like green looks this color. Green and blue would both look this color gray, right? If you sap the color out of them.
I'm voting for a boring Primaris like ultramarine blue.
But I think I think you're right. Some kind of like little hovery, tanky thing. I think that's the right call. So there you go. I wish it was just another Knight Titan. I would support that. Just more knights.
Just more of those things.
Yeah, man.
Give us more. Yes, indeed.
That'd be cool.
So, Warhammer events. The GW came out with an article this week talking about how events are going to be moving forward, either listed, supported, or endorsed. And so the data from that listed is kind of the entry level stage. Supported requires 130 participants at the event. And with that, it seems like there would be rewards maybe and trophies and other types of support that GW would send towards that. The other category is endorsed. It doesn't necessarily seem.
By the way, just as a slight aside, they changed this since then. Like I know what you're quoting.
Oh. Yeah. I'm quoting the original article.
Right. The original article. Okay. So this has been updated, and I suspect in response to concerns, because what they're looking, I suspect here to do, if you think about event support.
Yes.
Okay. That's a notable thing, not tournament support. Okay. Those are two different things. Nova is an event, right?
Okay. Yeah.
It has tournaments at it.
Okay.
All right. So, the listed events are smaller and newer events, blah, blah, blah. Just like you said, supported events. I'm reading off the current page now.
Yeah.
Gatherings with at least 500 attendees.
Oh, okay. So we're talking like Gen Con.
No. I mean, sure. Yeah, that's 70,000 attendees. But like Nova has probably almost 5,000 this year. No, sorry, almost 3,000 this year. Sorry, Nova was up to 3,000. They grew considerably this last year. Adepticon has like 5,000, but you know, other things have lots of attendees. Notably, if you look at something like take something like NashCon, right? That's part of a larger event contingent that has lots of things going on in it. Or something like what we're going to talk about today. Blood and Glory, right? Because Blood and Glory, there's no single event at Blood and Glory that has 500 people playing in a tournament, right? Steve?
Sure.
No, yeah, I say we're looking, biggest will be Age of Sigmar, which will be knocking on the door of 200, we hope.
Right. But then you've got a bunch of other events going on too, right? Like there's going to be Shadespire there and on and on.
Yeah, I would say Titanicus, 40k, Heresy, and obviously Warhammer Achievements as well, of course.
Right. So, I mean, the point is that I think they're allowing, especially in a world where you can't play in every event, right? Like if you go to in every tournament, if you go to a big convention, you might sign up for like the 2-day AOS doubles event, but then play in like the Kill Team 2-day Grand Championship or something, or whatever. Like, I don't care. Pick your poison. You know what I mean? Yep. So like the point is that I think that's what they always probably intended, but it didn't communicate properly initially.
Right. It looked like it had to be like tournaments of 130 or more. Okay, well that's good. That's even better. So events that have a very large opportunity for growth, maybe is the best way to say it, are going to be supported, and then finally the final category is endorsed. And for endorsed, it's those that GW is going to like promote and take photos and community, and they might send like somebody like their own community members to kind of vet the event and stuff like that. So I love it. Like this was a fantastic occurrence, thing that happened this week.
Yeah, and I mean I think this is good overall. I don't mind the nature of what it means to go from listed to supported. I saw a bit of like people who were sort of negative on this originally because they felt like it was setting too high of a barrier for GW support. Well, they're not saying they're not going to support you. Listed means listed, right? But like what they want to do here is for these larger events, they want to go out and really get aggressive with them. But at the same time, they have to make sure that like
they're legitimate.
Well, that the funny example they gave that was like that you're not blocking the fire exits, right? And that's a stupid example, but like literally they just want to make sure that the thing's being run well by people that they can trust, by people who are running a good show. Because if they endorse a tournament, they want it to mean something, right? If they just flood open the door and stamp everybody, then it doesn't mean anything. Like they want to do their due diligence here, so that's fine. I hope that, and like a 500 person total event is big by the standards of a tournament, but very small by the standards of an event.
Yes, agreed.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Like I said, that the convention that NashCon happens at, or that, our NashCon AOS GT happens at, it's certainly well more than 500 people attend, right?
Yeah.
I would say by that kind of number, I mean, Blood and Glory is going to be pushing upwards of 500, but that'd be about it compared to some of the events that you guys have over in the States. It's nowhere near, really. I mean, think about Nova, it's not on the same scale, nowhere near on the same scale yet.
Right, sure. So it is interesting because the nature of the difference of the way conventions in the States tend to be structured versus, say, conventions in, Europe or in the UK. So it'll be interesting to see how it gets applied going forward. Any additional involvement is good. The chance to have for the listing alone to me is good. There's no number requirement on listing, right?
Right.
The fact that they're inclined to start listing out these events on a singular on their site is a good thing. We should all be happy about. I'll reserve judgment on the rest. One of the things go ahead, Steve.
I'd say going on to the listing things. I mean, obviously we're lucky enough in the UK to go and play at GWHQ down in Nottingham, and you go there and you play people who have no real concept still that there's this sort of the big independent scene going on around about. And so when if they start to promote other events, people will say, oh yeah, there's an event in the south or in the north, events in Scotland. It's like we can find other places that we can play and hopefully meet other people, and it maybe brings more people into the fold, which would be lovely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the hits alone that main site gets is simply larger than any of the other individual stuff that's aggregated it. And that's not to be a hit on good work like Tyler and Dan have done, where they've categorized a bunch of stuff and compiled a big massive list on AOS events. That's great work, but it's kind of inside baseball, right? You've already got to be inside the community and know to go out and
go to that website to actually see that stuff. Yeah. Yep.
So it's super useful, but the reality is there are more eyes on glass looking at the GW main site or the community site than there is on any other of the sort of community subsidiary sites. That's just raw numbers, right?
Yep.
So if we can get more people driven and being driven to these events, checking them out, I only see that as a good thing, to be completely frank.
Yeah.
So.
Indeed.
All right.
Next week, I think
about that.
I like those thoughts. Next week we have both the kill team Rogue Trader dropping.
Yeah, buddy. Rogue Trader.
Nurgle getting some more models.
That new Nurgle one looks good.
Yes,
those Nurgle models are horrifying. Horrifying. Dear God. Like it is a testament to their design skill. Like you look at some of those new guys. I mean, they are exceptional models, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just at a level that I'm like, nope.
I think it's interesting. We had the Maggot King book come out, and then all of a sudden, since that's come out, we've got Pestigors in the Blood Bowl set. We've got these new sort of abhorrent big dudes in the kill team event. All the little Gribblies and flying things and grubs and stuff like that. You think, oh, you could go back and add all those in. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean. I will say full credit to them for a lot of this design, but I think it all kicked off with one of the strongest kits they've ever made. Like, I don't think it's overstating it to say the Blight Kings are one of the most like enduring quality kits that GW has designed. Like for versatility, for what it can do, for the quality of the kit. It's like, I might hate Nurgle, but even I have to respect the Blight Kings, and that was sort of the first one in there, right?
Yeah,
like in line with Magakin. So that by that I mean like the original, like the Nurgle release. Yeah.
The design,
the End Times release of Nurgle.
Yeah, it's those and the Glock King, wasn't it, that came out together? And
cool that, and then the Magath Lords as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really been strength to strength for Nurgle. It's clear that the designers have hit their stride with that stuff. Now I patiently await to see now that you've got the training wheels off on all this Nurgle stuff. Okay, now it's time to do some build design.
Slaanesh.
Blah blah blah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
I appreciate you making my point for me. Yes.
Okay, yeah. We know what you're gonna say. We did an entire show of it last week. Congratulations.
Is it ever time to stop talking about Slaanesh? The answer is no. All right. At any rate.
Anyways, yeah. So other news. So we have those kill team rogue trader coming, and then arguably like or more important for us, probably for me. I don't know. I really like kill team, but is the made to order heroes. They're here, folks. Thorgrim is back.
Thorgrim. For those of you who were waiting patiently. Yeah. Okay.
Shut your mouth. I was waiting. I was like, he was the only dwarf model that I didn't have that I was like, and I was like, I'm not going to pay $150 for him. Like, I want to add him to my case, but I'm not paying $150 for him. But I will pay this, I don't know, the marked up 75 or whatever GW asks. I don't know. I'm looking forward to him. I don't know about other people. There's like the unit, the Fey Enchantress, and a bunch of the old Order heroes, like the named characters.
Some of the Empire, the old Empire characters, isn't there? Ludwig Schwarzhelm and one of the other ones, King Lewin Leon Cour, or however you pronounce his name. My French is awful.
That's excellent. Yes, those folks. And they would make good like free peoples. Like you could do some neat conversions and stuff like that with those as well. So yeah, I'm down. Like that's it's exciting.
Well, the Ludwig Schwartz, whatever his name is, Ludwig Schwarzhelm or whatever, the charging forward guy. Because I think is Kurt's the one with the banner, right?
Kurt's the one with the banner. Yeah.
Kurt with Hellborg was the banner bearer. So that other dude charging forward, he is admittedly a pretty great model. Like he's a nice looking. He's got a lot of motion to him.
Yeah. The pose on the horse, both horses on those models are fantastic. Can you compare? Whenever you used to put those into a unit with the old Empire Knights, just look ridiculous. They were so much better.
I agree. They're really like they're both dynamic in completely different ways. Like one is sort of rocking back and one is charging way forward, right? But the Fey Enchantress is the real win for me because you could easily turn that chick into like a vampire on steed, like pretty easily. She's ready to be
like on a black unicorn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, be good. Do like little green stunts and flames around the hooves. Do some like a flaming nightmare black unicorn.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
Okay. I switched them around apparently. Sorry. Kurt is the one who was charging and
Kurt Hellborg
with the banner. Yes. I can't I apologize. My ability to keep dead Empire heroes straight is admittedly slipping in my old age. But there you go. Thank you for the clarification from the comments.
And then finally, a contributor to the community, LLV, did some stats of recent events. I think it was 9 events worldwide. And he compiled a bunch of data on factions and Honest Wargamer. I'm tipping my hand for my pick of the week. The Honest Wargamer did a show, like kind of deep diving into these stats. Rob from the show, Rob times. And have you guys seen these numbers? Let me pull these up real quick for us.
Yeah.
So you can see. What are our thoughts? Other than Phoenix Guard are clearly amazing. Thank you, Chris.
So
it's a great list played by a terrible player.
Sorry, Chris.
My thoughts are that it's not enough data to make real statistical inferences from yet, obviously.
Sure.
Like 9 events is a comically small number of events if we were doing real statistical analysis, right?
Yes.
But it does give us directionally some interesting things. Like it tells us that daughters are pretty popular. It tells us that the dead are pretty popular, right?
Well, so let me pull this up real quick.
Why don't you do that, Tom?
Shut up. I closed the window somewhere, so that's what I was trying to find. What I found was
bad at the internet.
I am totally bad at the internet. Was the top 10 finals. Like that was what stood out to me.
Sure.
Because if you're talking like of all the columns, that's the most significant one because of that and the meta percentage. Those are the two most important numbers to me because like, okay, sure, we only have X number of events, but the fact that we've had 14 top 10 finishes for Legions of Nagash list
within 9 events or whatever.
Within 9 events, that is a significant number.
Sure.
Or alternatively, the fact that 12% of your meta, so like 12% of what you're going to encounter at an event is going to be Legions.
I want to mention something that came up in the comments real quick because they were talking about dead heroes in the comments, and Skeleton mentioned that Sigvald is still his crush. At Nova this weekend, I picked up a nice cherry metal, pristine condition, still in clam pack, Sigvald the Magnificent, to paint up and add to my Slaanesh force. So just wanted to say I hate metal, but there are a few heroes that I will pick up, and Sigvald was one of them. So anyways, there you go.
Let it go, Vince. Anyways, so numbers. So those are the two sets of numbers on this list that I think that are most significant.
Okay, so broad sweeping generalization time. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Broad sweeping generalization. Everybody we would expect to be at the top is at the top, right?
Right. There are no surprises there.
Ignore the numbers completely, and if you just look at the sort of, who has these higher what is this actually sorted on right now, by the way?
Top 10s.
Top 10s, isn't it?
Yep, top 10.
No, it's not. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't know what is the sorting mechanism for this?
That's a great question.
Nothing is in proper sort order. But at any rate, so like grouping at the top, if you look at everybody who has, say, if you go down to Nighthaunt, everybody up from Nighthaunt has roughly a 4%-ish or more meta percentage, right?
Right,
Ish.
representation.
Yep.
I'm surprised how low order is, but anyways, continue. Like mixed order? Like that's been a thing.
It's been a thing mainly by one player who's really, really good with them, right? And then a bunch of people who aren't playing that list as well. Which you can see bear out in some of the numbers here. But like over time, yeah, okay, exactly who I expected to be in this mix is in this mix.
I'm surprised by the Ideneth, by the way. I have not heard Ideneth finishing the top 10 that frequently recently, but maybe I had missed that memo.
Well, also consider the 9 events this is drawn from. Like, this isn't recent history. Okay,
right.
Like this goes back a sweep. So the Ideneth meta percentage is low because people hadn't painted their fish elves yet. Right. The Nighthaunt percentage is lower than it will be because people hadn't painted their ghosty boys yet. There hasn't been that many events where the Nighthaunt army has been present. Right. Also, you're like, one of the problems is you've got Nighthaunt with legions, and those two are all about getting up in each other's, each other's business.
Dipping into that. So, like, yes.
In addition, you've got 2 who have certainly a low number of top 10s, but have a very high meta percentage still buried down there in Seraphon and Ironjaws, right? Like, Ironjaws has a higher meta percentage than a lot of the people up top. Right.
Despite their terrible showing.
Sure. Well, sure. So I mean, like, there's a lot of different interesting things going on here, and what I want to see really is this get up to 20 events, 30 events over the next 6 months. That's where something is going to actually get interesting and become like, okay, we can draw a conclusion here or there.
Yeah, you can actually parse data out of. The problem is that, like, the actual, and we've talked about this before, the actual number of events that we have in a year on the same rule set is so limited. And so at the end of the day, like, we just don't have the kind of data that we would want to do this type of analysis.
Sure.
Also, as well, you've got the different event packs and the way events are run. It's going to skew results in certain ways. But it's still, as I think gamers can pull stuff out of it because we're gamers and it's fun and we like to look at it, don't we? It's like,
Indeed.
I totally agree, because like, if the events that get pushed in here, one event run like completely stock, straight GHB 2018, right?
Yep.
Is going to have much different results than like an event
Nova.
that has then
like
or something that has like secondaries and tertiaries and different ways to split scores and different. So like all that stuff can play around with those numbers, right?
Yep.
And especially when it comes to things like top 10ing. Right, because top 10 isn't necessarily always drawn just from like your battle score being a top 10. Like top 10 is a reported thing that can be drawn out of many different components.
Right.
So,
right, and some will lean heavier into hobby and the like, and so absolutely.
Yep. And I will tell you from my non-scientific observation this last weekend, there were many daughters and there were many ghosty boys. There were standalone ghosty boys and there were ghosty boys working for Nagash. But the ghosty boys were out in force. They stand out on tables because they're so bright, right? Like they all look like that. They all but you can see the ghosty boys a mile away, and they were out. Big bunches of them.
Yeah, indeed. So this happened, is what I would say.
It's a cool thing. I want to see it. As I said, I think it doesn't really tell us much of anything we didn't already know now, but it will be interesting to watch it grow.
It does confirm some of the things that it supports some of the claims we've made on distribution of what you're likely to see.
It doesn't, yes, it doesn't confirm anything, but it does add some supporting evidence. Yes.
Sure. Okay. I'll take that. That's fine. Yeah. And then relatedly, that was a great segue. We had Nova this last weekend.
Yeah.
Nova went well. It sounded like it was a robust event. We had some good showing for our top 10. We had Blades of Corn come out swinging.
Yeah, David Fields, baby, kicking it with the Council of Blood and the Flesh Hounds. It's my man right there, my personal hobby hero, bringing 25 Flesh Hounds and 4 Bloodthirsters. And doing the work.
It's so funny. We saw that army that NashCon like a year and a half ago.
Something like that. Yeah.
Like he's been playing it for a while, and it was so funny. Like when we saw that, like that started the joke. If you guys remember the show of like Karnak, like as the general bossing the Council of Blood around.
Yeah.
Like that. Like David Fields' list is that list that we made that joke out of.
What's that, Lassie? There's some humans over there to kill for corn. Let's get them, girl. I assume Karnak is female. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Or like we're the Council of Blood. How'd this dog get in charge?
Yeah, Corn is like you, my 4 most powerful bloodthirsters. I will send you to war, and to lead you in this quest, you will follow this dog. What? I love it. Everything about that army I love.
It's fantastic. Tzeentch had a showing, Nurgle, Ideneth, Legions, like literally everything that we just talked about had the showing with 2 dock lists in the top 10 and 3 Legions in the top 10. So and a Flesh Eater Courts and Clan Skyer both making surprising show-ups in the top 10.
Yeah, that's who was piloting the Skyer list in the top 10.
Let me look.
Is that Chai?
No, it was James O'Brien.
Oh, okay, James. A couple people like they were like
Chai was piloting, I believe, a daughter's list.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. But at any rate, I saw James Skyer list. It was good, and like there were a couple. There wasn't a huge. There was only like maybe 3, maybe 4 people there with Skaven lists in the total event. And they were all like, nobody had sort of the generic Skaven that I could see. Everybody was using Skaven either as part of like Nurgle or Pestilence or Skyer. But it was it was a solid list, and it requires somebody who really knows how to pilot the thing, to do it. But it can have challenges, obviously, in the current meta when you don't have a lot of troops, and it sucks to get swarmed by mass piles of 30 Grimghast Reapers. That's not real great for you.
No, definitely not. Nova went well. Vince, you took home some hardware this weekend.
Yeah. Well, before we talk about that for a second, let me just shout out Chuck. So Chuck, who ran the event, as well as Brian and Aaron, who ran the narrative event, all of whom did an awesome job. I heard the narrative event tables were amazing. They had like these big giant ships and sea monsters and stuff designed. Steve, did you see the tables?
Yeah, the ship ones. One of the in one of the WhatsApp groups with all of the Neo guys, the narrative event organizers, and we had some of the ship tables come in there, and they were showing them off. Chuck was on there sending us photos, and yeah, it looked fantastic. You know, it looked like big Dreadfleet, which I thought was great.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah, it really was like big Dreadfleet. It was amazing, and it looked like all the narrative people were having fun. Like, it's watching that event play out, where you see the people playing their games, then doing small things, then having side conversations and making alliances. Like, it's a great narrative event. And actually Nova has a long tradition of supporting the narrative, like really, really narrative events for both 40K and AOS. And so I think that in future years, I'm hoping that we see even more support for that, because those guys are all doing great work. So shout out to all of them who ran an incredible event. They also ran Kids Hammer, which I hear went very, very well. So that was super cool. And that's obviously a tournament specifically for kids, as this thing might sound. And I think they actually go ahead.
I'll say my 8-year-old's in training. So
sure. I think in the middle of the day they actually ran them through like a D&D game in the middle of their like Warhammer game. Like, they took their heroes from the Warhammer table and went through a little like D&D style dungeon. Okay.
It's so fantastic.
So, like, they were really selling the narrative for these kids and getting them involved. So that's great. Bringing the next generation up strong. So shout out to all the wonderful TOs who ran so much good stuff at Nova, who put in the work and the hours, especially to Chuck and Brian, who at like 11 p.m. on Saturday night had a showdown where Chuck got the guns out and was wearing his tank top, and they played a late night game, and Brian had like three Chaos War Mammoths and a bunch of Marauders and a War Shrine. It was also an elephant, but like a smaller elephant.
I saw a photo of that army. It looked great.
Yeah.
And those are not converted Chaos War Mammoths.
No, they're huge. Like, they're on the one, whatever. They're on like the giant plate. They're still barely fitting on there.
Are real ones.
They're just so big.
Real presence.
Yeah, sure. They're beyond huge. And then Chuck played his doc, and it was TO versus Neo, and the Neo took it. So there it was. The daughters couldn't stand up to elephant assault. I mean, what do you do, you know? But so that was a lot of fun. For my own personal experience, yes, I'll talk about this quickly. It was a great time at Nova. I had models in 5 categories, and I submitted in the Masters division. One of the great things this year is that they split up the competition into Masters, Journeyman, and Apprentice, and medaled and gave bests in category at all 3 levels. Okay, which was wonderful, because there was something like 20 to 25% growth on the number of submissions this year over last year, which is incredible, growth, right? And I fully believe that a large part of that was because of them breaking this into divisions. It's open system already, so you're not really competing against each other. But I think that at the same time, it can be disheartening to people if they look in the case and see, really amazing stuff. They think, oh, well, why would I even bother? Right. And that's not fair. That isn't how people should look at it ever. Nova was never about that. They always recognized work individually, but this actually let them shift their judging eye. And so there was a lot of great people across all 3 divisions who did really fantastic work. And I hope that it just continues to grow and grow and grow. The cases were overwhelmingly full this year, so it's going to be like a couple years before they've got to expand the area and or get new cases. But so I entered everything in Masters. I ended up taking home a bronze, a silver, and 3 golds, which was pretty great. For context, there was like 9 or 10, 8, I don't know. I think 9 gold medals given out in the Masters category. So I'm certainly proud of that. I golded in, 3 of the categories. So that was bust, vehicle, and unit. There it is. Unit. No. Yeah. Did not take home any firsts. This was a bridesmaid year for me. Always a bridesmaid. In all 3 of my categories, there were 2 golds given out, and in each time the other person got it. So I want, which is funny.
That's room for improvement there, then.
Absolutely, man. Clearly. But I want to shout out to Eric Swinson, Damon Drescher, and to whom I forget. No. So Eric took the bust, Damon took the vehicle, and of course John Margiotta, who took the unit gold. And all 3 of which or took the first, I should say, in category. We each got golds, but they took the first in each one. And 3 couldn't be better guys. Their pieces were all exceptional. And when they won, I couldn't be happier to see them take that, because all their stuff was amazing. And what's really awesome about Damon winning is I was hanging out with Damon some that weekend, and I was like, dude, your knight's going to beat me. And he was like, no, your knight's better. You're going to take it. And I was like, and in the end, I was right. So really, who won? Right? That's the question. But on the better side, Damon is doing Chaos Knights, like Chaos Imperial Knights.
Yep.
And I'm doing, obviously, Imperial Knights. So I said, all right, next year, showdown. We're going to fight this war between the Imperium and Chaos through our models in the vehicle category each year. I expect to see another knight from you next year, and we'll see who can take this battle.
It needs to end with you guys actually putting all of your award-winning knights on the table.
Yeah, that was what we said. Yes, like 2020, we'll actually fight a game with the full army of knights, right? The Chaos Knights versus the Imperium Knights. Yeah. So we'll both have full armies by that point. That's how many years it'll take.
So ridiculous.
But it was a lot of fun, and it was amazing. Everybody is awesome. Like, I want to give I'm talking a lot about this, but I want to thank Dave Taylor and Roman Lapotte and Matt DiPietro, who spent they were up till after 4 a.m. judging on Saturday night. They spent 9 hours judging all these things, really going into great detail. They worked their butts off to do something amazing. Everything was smooth, was wonderfully run. If you're at Nova, support it. It's just a great time. And most importantly, I don't know what the total ended up being for what was donated to charity. It probably cracked 6 figures. Okay, but I don't know what the number actually was. Yeah. So for those who don't know, Nova Open is run by the Nova Open Charitable Foundation. Everybody who's there, everybody who teaches, everybody who works there, it's all volunteer work. Okay? Nobody gets a paycheck for Nova. All right?
Right.
And specifically, what's one of the things they do is they do this big raffle. Okay? And in this big raffle, they had a ton of amazing stuff to raffle off, including a Warlord Titan that had been painted amazingly. But I want to shout out Alexander Good. So Alex last year had seen that they were doing this for charity, and he went in and he brought together a whole team. He brought together a bunch of vendors, and he donated, and he got people to donate an Ultramarine army bigger than any army I've ever seen. I mean, it was just stupidly massive. I do not know how many thousands of points, vehicles, units, the deal. Okay.
Right.
Thousands and thousands of points of Ultramarines. And then he painted them over this whole year, and they were gorgeous. So it was like a ready to go, many, many, many 1,000-point army.
Wow.
Okay. And then he just donated that for charity. And I do know that between the Warhound Titan and the Ultramarines, they raised more than $25,000 in raffle tickets.
Wow.
So, Alex, shout out to you. It's amazing work. And he's planning to go even bigger for next year. So if you're somebody who's interested in helping out with charity, reach out to Alex. It's Alexander Good. And I can put contact information for him down there. The man put his heart and soul into this for cancer research, for Doctors Without Borders. That is doing amazing work for the community, and he should be lauded, commended, and held up as an example for all of us. So I wanted to say personally thank you on the show. So there you go.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, that.
Yes. That's amazing. Vince, you just ruined it because I wanted to spruik something else that I knew you wouldn't. So I'm going to shine a light on Vince. He would never say this ever, ever, ever. But I get a text at like 12:45 on Friday night. He's like, look at this. And his, like, he walked up to the Capitol, like the Capitol competition, like the painting competition.
Oh yeah, sure.
On the banner advertisement was his knight from last year.
Yeah, that was super cool. That was like a neat thing that they included my picture on that. My little mini on that. I was so proud. That was wonderful.
So it was pretty awesome. So congratulations on that as well.
Thanks, man. No, that was cool. That was very cool. But yes. So all in all, Nova was amazing. Like I don't know what to tell you. If you can in any way get to DC, to the capital of the United States, as it were, and around this time, around Labor Day weekend, I can't encourage you to go enough. They have tournaments for everything. The community there is incredible. There was late night serenading. If you want to see Pete Foley grab the guitar and go to town, the man can jam. It was really like a singular event. It is it is my favorite event of the year. I love Adepticon. I love a lot of things I do, but it is incredible. And you can drink for charity. Where else do you get to do that? So that's fun. There you go. But it's a great time. So make it a thing you plan on for 2019. That's what I'll say. There you go. All right. Shall we transition now into some pick of the week, gentlemen?
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. Steve, what would you like to share with everybody?
I'd like to share two things, if that's all right.
Please.
Nope. Hard limit. That's it. You're out of here, Steve. Booted. It's done. No, you're good, man. What do you got?
Yeah. It's a couple of podcasts, actually. I don't know if you guys have picked up on them. The first one's a UK-based one done by a couple of guys from Liverpool called Just Saying. And they're starting to go kind of quite in-depth into UK tournaments and the meta and all that kind of things. They've got, 10, 15 episodes out now. They're only short. They usually do about an hour. And they're both kind of new to the UK scene, but they're both, I think, experienced gamers. And they've got a podcast where they're both, the two guys that do it, Ian and Richie, are very confident in their sort of views and opinions. And it makes for good listening. I think they're not far off the mark with a lot of the things they say. And if you're interested in kind of hardcore competitive, it's a good podcast to check out.
Nice.
And then the other one was one that is the Lords and Heroes one, done by two of the guys from the Independent Characters. I've only just listened to a couple of episodes of that, but obviously, they've got a lot of experience in the podcasting, so it's very professional, and they're much more narrative and hobby driven. I've listened to the first 2 or 3 episodes of that and enjoyed that a lot. So give those guys a listen as well, both on iTunes, I think.
Nice. Excellent. I like how you presented balanced options for the audience. Steve.
There you go. Catering for everybody.
There you go. Everybody's got some content that they can put in their ear holes that will make them happy. All right. Good stuff. I will link both of those down below.
Thank you very much.
Tommy, what about you, buddy? Are you resharing what you already stated earlier?
Yeah, Rob Sines on the Honest Wargamer did an in-depth discussion of the stats. And so I just want to encourage you all to check it out. The numbers that we talked about in the news segment.
Yep. For mine, I am also going to pick a podcast this week, which is our old buddy Kenny in Combat Phase. On his recent episode, he has me on as part of a segment where he's going to start discussing a lot of the hobby related stuff. So I pre-recorded quite a bit of stuff with him. We spent better part of an afternoon just talking through a bunch of different segments so we can drop them into the show, and he can use them however he sees fit. And the point being is that that he has some hobby focused segments and stuff like that. But it's obviously Combat Phase is a fantastic podcast in general, so I will link that down below. And in this particular one, he actually talks about starting Fire Slayers as well. Ooh, something that Obviously, Kenny, of all people, the original Lord of the Lodge, the most loyal Lord of the Lodge, Kenny Lowell. So, there's a lot of L's there. Kenny Lowell, the loyal Lord of the Lodge. Yeah, there it is. Got to 4. Okay. So, at any rate, check that out. All right. All that stuff will be linked down there. Talk about some hobby time. Gentlemen, what's on your table? Steve, what are you working on, buddy?
At the moment, I've picked up some Tzeentch, some pink horrors that are actually yellow. I don't know if that's not showing up at all, but whatever. Let's not worry about it too much. Do you know, I've been in a real lull. I haven't painted a model. I don't think for about a month and a half, 2 months maybe. It's been shocking, really. I've been summer holidays out with the kids, been on holiday, so finally managed to pull my finger out and start base coating some little horrors again. Get back on the Tzeentch train, so to speak. Oh, and of course the big castle thing, I finished that off, which was good. Can I grab it? No, probably not. If people want to see it, they can see it. It's on the internet.
Yes, indeed. I'll link to some photos where you shared it out so people can see it. Make a note of that because it is worth seeing. It is incredible. Okay.
An interesting project to do. That was.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I kept looking at it, thinking how I could keep going and going on it. So I think after I sort of stopped because I need it for Blood and Glory as part of the tables for Warhammer Achievements. But as I was working through it, because it's based off a Playmobil model, there's a lot of kind of hard edges that you could take away quite easily with a little bit of play bark and filler and stuff like that. You could really get it looking. You could up the realism quite a lot. So I might come back to that after the events run and see about pulling something together that's a little bit more realistic.
It's so funny you mentioned that. I have a similar Playmobil model that's going to be up on my table very soon. Not the exact same thing, obviously, but similar. Awesome.
Oh yeah, that's happening.
It is happening. Tom, what's on your table?
Well,
yeah, we got some kill team terrain, or AOS terrain. Like that's just terrain.
Yeah, it's terrain. It's kill team terrain, but yeah. So I built a Stormcast army this week.
Good job. Did you paint a Stormcast army this week?
No, I built it.
Okay.
Like with the using like the pre-done like Shattered Dominion bases, where like I use those with like my own mud and stuff like that to fill in all the soft details, just using the ruins, and then did like my whole cleansing flanks. So like 6 Dracolines and a ungodly number of Sequitors and all that stuff. So that's all built. I've been working on, somebody was very generous and gifted my children a Star Drake. So for their birthday. So now I'm building a Star Drake. So that's happening. So thank you very much. And I'm in the process of, I want to get my kill team terrain. I want to get a table like painted up and done. And yeah, so a lot of building. I have like all of the witch elves that still need to be painted for next month. Or no, I have like 60 days.
You have as many days as you have witch elves to paint.
No, that's not true. No, that's not true. I have 30 done. So I really only need like 30 more. My warlord, a couple heroes, and if I decide to do the Canary, them as well. I don't know if I'm going to do them or not. So I haven't decided yet. Like I may go like the Vince route and be like, I'm Iron Manning 1,000 points. That's it. No changing the list.
That's it. Done and dusted. Yeah, sure.
So that may happen for Holy Havoc. So we'll see. I have a lot of projects that I'm enjoying. I'm really enjoying building terrain, like really enjoying building and painting terrain right now and doing the kill team stuff. And so I may hold off. I mean, I don't know what this will mean for me for Adepticon, because if this kind of if this persists, I won't have an army ready for Adepticon. Like I'll be taking dwarves again or something. So,
I mean, you're gonna just take dwarves again, but this time you'll have Stormcast mixed into it too. We all know it's what's gonna happen. Hold on, let me gaze into my crystal ball. And sign says there will be some mix of dwarves and probably kitty caters or some kind of cater action with maybe some Sekis at Adepticon. You heard it here first. So if it doesn't happen, the only reason that Tom won't do this is because I'm making this prediction. Only the Heisenberg principle will keep this from happening. Okay? By examining a thing and predicting a thing, I have acted upon a thing. That is all that will stop this from going down. Because otherwise, it's what would happen.
It's not a terrible list.
Yep. Some Sekis to hold down some battle line. Maybe you've got a big long beard block. Maybe
you couldn't do the Sekis for battle line. It'd have to be Stormcast army.
Or sorry, that's fine. You're right, because your Sekis are conditional battle line. I'm sorry. You'd have your normal battle line crap that you've normally got. Okay. And then you'd probably still use some Sekis. Maybe you'd use some kitty caters. I know you. There'd definitely be 30 Arco in there. That's gonna happen because you love shoving Arco into things.
Thanks, Vince. That's not going to happen, but it's a great prediction. No, I mean, I'll probably take. I don't know what I'll take. I can't even say that. Like maybe I'll take Moon Clan. Who knows?
All right. Anyway,
okay.
so no, I'm glad you're working on a bunch of stuff. That's all good.
I am hobby ADD right now. Like at the end of the day, like that's what's going on. Like I'm really, and the problem is that I'm really enjoying the Kill Team stuff, and I really want to get like an entire table of Kill Team stuff painted up. And it's hard to do that and also paint armies. And so, we'll see.
Sure. So at the current moment, what I'm actually working on is finishing my last 10 Sisters of Slaughter. Okay. So these are my little shield and whippy whip sisters. Obviously, I still have the witch elf heads because I don't use the like actual metal mask for anything except my champion, right? So I can always identify the champion.
Sure.
But that's the last.
I do the same thing. I do the same thing. Like, those like the dumb ugly masks never get used.
No, I mean they're good to demarcate a champion. So I'm working on that. Once I finish up these 10 girls, which I'll do here, in the next couple days, then I have to decide where we go. Like I still have other stuff from that box set not done, like a Hag Queen on Cauldron and an extra Slaughter Queen. I'll probably set those to the side and come back to them when I get bored for, when I want to do some daughters in the future, right? And instead, then begins the roulette of giant projects. I find myself highly motivated coming out of Nova. Nothing makes you more thirsty for painting competition models than getting out of a competition. Training for next year starts the day after the tournament, baby. There's no breaks in competition. So, like I have my next Knight Titan in the army. This is the big stuff that I'm staring down and trying to order. I have the big Knight Titan. I have my big giant secret project of conversion goodness, all about being mean to Tyler Emerson. Okay. I have the building our display board, which I mentioned the Playmobil thing, right? So Steve, are you familiar with like the Playmobil Roman Colosseum?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So that's what's going to become Tom and I's display board for our Daughters of Cain, right? So I'm going to build that out into a full Romanesque, blood sport Colosseum for the daughters to test themselves in, right? With Marathi sitting at the head of it and all of that. So I've got to get that built. And I don't know which one of these ridiculous. Oh, and then there's also a unit. There's also a big unit project that I want to do for competition. Like I know what I have a very clear vision of my next sort of competition unit project. And that would also be very time consuming because all units for competition are very time consuming.
Oh, and by the way, folks, I've been trying to talk Vince into buying and painting a Warlord Titan, like the small child size Forge World miniature. So if you think Vince should buy and paint one for a competition, put that in the comments below.
What would I do with it? It's the size of a child.
Yeah, you don't have kids, so it could be your kid.
I am.
It can threaten your dogs.
Sure, I'm not getting a Warlord Titan and painting it. No, it's not happening, Tom. You can put that idea away.
Oh, I think you should. Hey, everybody, put it in the comments below. Hey, by the way, Vince is painting terrain right now. For those of you that don't know, he's actually making real terrain. And see, look, that's happening. He's gonna have a real.
I don't know if that's actually visible or not. It might be blocked by the little faces.
It took 3.5 years of me hounding him, but he's making real terrain for his tables now. Okay. So here's the deal. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we need to start the Warlord Titan train right now.
Oh, did I mention I also have my Golden Demon Winners Challenge to do as well? So I have that. That's another one on there too.
I'll just drop that one in there at the.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, by the way.
No, I got the models for it. So that was that's another one on the list. I literally need to make a Post-it note to remind myself of all the giant projects and then checklist it off. And then in between there, I have little things I'll do for fun. Like I bought 2 kill teams. I bought a Necron kill team and a Dark Elder kill team. Drukari, which I am excited for. Those witches are cool. The other thing I picked up at Nova was this thing. So I'll be doing a product review on this thing soon. This is the new, this is the red grass wet palette thing.
Oh, yeah.
This is the bigger one.
I look forward to hearing that review.
Yeah, this is like the studio size, the extra large one, which I was happy about because the normal one is way too small. But yeah, I'll be I'm gonna play with this over the next couple projects, and you see how big it is here. That's how big it is.
Wow, nice.
Wow,
love it.
So I'm gonna give this a play and see how I like it, see if it lives up to the hype, and then I'll do a full product review of it. So that'll be coming in the next couple weeks. Once I get a few weeks of painting on it. So gonna be a busy time. Busy bees. And I got sick right after I came back from Nova, so I was still fighting through. I was like, must keep hobbying. Yeah, it's fun. All right. Let's talk about Warhammer Achievements, guys, in Blood and Glory. So Steve, take us through this. For the uninitiated in the audience, my friend, explain what this is. What are we talking about today?
So we've Blood and Glory is an event that Ben Curry started running, I'd say 5 years ago now. And it started off just as a sort of standard Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition event. It was popular. It wasn't too big. It had kind of a good cult following. Some lovely armies turned up to it. It was always good fun, good challenge. And then last year, he decided that he was going to branch out and that he was going to expand Blood and Glory. So going from sort of a 50-player event the year before to a 450-player event the year after, and recruited myself, Mark Wildman, Andy Thornley, a few other guys in to help run it. And we started getting developing game systems and figuring out what we're going to do. And yeah, it was pretty successful last year, I think. So we're carrying it on again this year, hopefully making it even bigger and better.
Yeah, it was unbelievably successful last year from everything I heard. I heard nothing but good things about it. And so what are you most looking forward to this year with the event?
Well, for me, it's expanding Warhammer Achievements. It's got to be the big. Well, I say looking forward to it. I was looking forward to it, and then people kept buying tickets, and so then I started to look forward to it slightly less as I realised I had however many tables from last year, and I needed to pretty much double the amount of tables for this year. So then I started to not like it quite so much.
A victim of your own success.
Yeah, it did feel a little bit like that. So I kept messaging Ben. I'm like, how are we doing? People are buying tickets for Warhammer Achievements. You've got to stop selling tickets for Warhammer Achievements, Ben. I cannot make that much stuff.
That's amazing.
I've got so much sympathy for Steve Herner now. It's untrue. Think about all the work he's done.
Yeah.
And I think he went through it a few years ago, though. So I'm going through it now. But yeah, so that expanding is great, and it's going to be really exciting. We've got some really good things planned for the event this year. The release of Age of Sigmar, the 2nd edition of GHB, and the new rules have given us a lot of scope for bringing in the rules and the type of tables that we can create and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that we are looking forward to doing and trying out, which is going to be fun. And as the concept of it, of Warhammer Achievements, is pretty much staying the same. So they've got all of the achievements that people can grab in game. I say, we'd probably explain how it works, shouldn't we? Do you think?
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Lay down the basics for us, because this is a really interesting concept, and it says, words are hard. Through the haze of cold medicine, words are fun. Let's obviously this is maybe one of the most, I don't want to say complex systems.
It is one of the uniquest systems for sure.
There you go. Yeah, that's certainly true. To truly be an achiever.
Yes,
you've got to be on your game. So yeah, lay out the basics for us. What this looks like.
So Ben Johnson famously described it as Warhammer bookkeeping when he turned up, which was a nice description. This is the 6th one that I've done, which surprised me actually. I was like, God, have I done 6 of these? That's not bad. But the original concept came from the Xbox achievement system, where you play through a game. And you complete the game and you do all the normal stuff, and then all of a sudden you find out that there's all of these little extra bits and pieces that you can do in game. And I sort of thought, well, I reckon you can apply this to Warhammer in some degree. So the achievement list, the whole sort of scoring for the system is based on the achievements. So although we've got the games and the tables and all of this kind of stuff to sort of make it look pretty and make it fun for the players, the big kind of goal is to get as many achievements as you can. And it originally started off with 50 achievements broken down into gaming, list design, painting, and sports. And
you have, do you have expanded the list handy where you could show people some of the?
I do. Yeah. If we let's see if
we'll
this
lock on you and we'll share up
malarkey works again. We'll try that. There you go. And if I go there. Is that up on the screen?
There we go. Yep, we're up.
Yeah.
We can see the volcanic plains, the realm of Akshi.
So if we go through into the tournament, if I just scroll down here a little bit, you've got the achievement list here. So we went from having sort of 50 overall achievements. We've now gone up to 99 achievements.
It's so fantastic.
So these are sort of some of the ones that you can get. There's a lot of them. Some of them have never changed. Like the Richard Hammond Award. Richard Hammond famously crashed his car. And he was host of a program called Wipeout, but was also host of Top Gear and crashed his car famously. So that was where the name for that one came, and that's been in since the very beginning. Obviously, the ones that are highlighted are new ones for this year. One of the things that we did last year was bring in the ones here where you could gain more than one achievement for doing something.
Sure. So if you win 10 double turns,
3 achievement points. I mean, that is over the course of 5 games, so it's not.
Right.
I'll say it's probably still not easily achieved. Let's say.
Well, all you got to do is win 1 to 2. You give away first turn, you win 1 to 2, and then they need to double turn you from 2 to 3, and then you double turn them from 3 to 4, and you win the game. Boom. There you go. That's all you got to do.
Well, this is the thing. Yeah, and it kind of developed. So originally there was just kind of this list of achievements, but what we found was that even in the 3-game tournament, as it was originally, people were getting, you'd get quite a lot really quickly, and then in the last game, you probably wouldn't get very many. So we started to think about, okay, how can we develop it to make it so there's more achievements to gain throughout the event? Because the kind of, the fun is ticking off each of the events you do. So we started to bring in what we call in-game achievements.
Right.
So that you get ones specifically for each game that you play. And as I started to drive it more towards a kind of narrative that ran through the games, you can kind of use the achievements to make people do the things that you want them to do to make the story drive on forwards a little bit. So you can kind of force people's narrative hand a little bit, which was a kind of interesting byproduct. I didn't really think about it originally, but as we kind of played through it, that was kind of what was happening. So keeping that in. We've got the painting achievements, and again, a lot of these have been sort of in from the beginning. And it's all about, really, it's just about effort as well. It's a self-marking tournament, so I kind of just rely on honesty of my of the people that are attending. Like, I don't go around and do the paint. I'm just like, yeah, just tick it off if you've got it. Tick it off. Someone could probably tick all of them, and I wouldn't ever check. But no one's ever done that. So, the integrity of Wargamers.
Honorable people.
Indeed.
Don't tell me things like that. That would ruin the whole thing for me if someone ever did that. And again, things like this. I mean, the sports achievements, they're a little bit. The people that turn up are all, they're all lovely people and stuff, and all of these things they probably do anyway, to be honest. And again, the army selection ones changed when it changed to Age of Sigmar from fantasy. I found these a little bit harder to write, but they've all come about now, and there's a lot of sort of options because of the different points levels of the games. It's fairly easy to get a lot of those, so I might have to have another look at those later on. And then, of course, the famous negative achievements, which we just started to drop in to prevent, it's kind of for fun, but also to try and discourage anything that we think.
Sure. No, this is my favorite part. I love these. Set up a unit within 9 inches of an enemy model. -1 point, right? Like
-5 points.
-5.
Yeah, sorry. -5. Sorry. Yeah, so like if
I see this, like the first thing I think when I see this, Vanguard Hunters are back on the table, boys.
So like you go, your Vanguard Hunters, your Gout Flame, that's worth -5. That's not good. I also particularly love the Croaking. Cast the same spell more than once per turn. -5 for casting.
And it's interesting because the tournament's been won by some players who are really, who are good players, but have never been sort of serious gamers. And the people that have won the negative awards, because we always do a trophy for the person that's negative award, and the people that have won the negative, I've had ETC players, they've met the ones who've won the negative awards. Ben Curry himself, I think, has won it. So the negative awards has been won by some pretty famous UK power gamers.
Yeah, I mean, like it looks like it is very like Seraphon are well positioned, is what I would say looking across this.
Here's what I would say. This is like Tom's game plan is the negative achievements. That's why you could tell Tom is a bad person. Because like let's just look down this list real quick, okay? Keep them coming. The stack the same command ability. Yeah, obviously Tom has done that and is all about that. The bring the pain, include a unit of 7+ models that shoot 24 inches or more. Yep, that's Tom's thing. Battle shock a unit outside of the battle shock phase. That's Tom's thing. Suck out the fun. Exactly what I would describe it as doing. Include a unit of 20 or more models that have more than one save. Like, that's Tom's entire game plan, having like 5 saves. Okay. And then 30, that's the magic number. Take 3 or more units of 30 models. Yep. Again, right in Tom's wheelhouse where he would like to live. The only way Tom would ever skate out of that one is if he had like one unit of his just happened to have been 28 Chaos Warriors because previously he was trying to exploit Plague Touched or something. He would have accidentally, he would have been technically a unit of 30 that only had 28 models, right?
Indeed.
So yeah, it's awesome.
So that's the basic principle of the event, is to get or tick off as many of those as you possibly can, and then kind of the whole thing is run. It's a 5-game event, and we've got scenarios which are usually I tend to write a lot of the scenarios myself, but this year I decided to use the Malign Sorcery scenarios as the basis for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So we've got a little story about a character that we've called the Realm Walker, who's kind of going through the mortal realms, and he's on a quest to get rid of endless spells and categorize them and see what's going on with them all. So we've got a little bit of story that gets written, and again, it just runs through the different things. And again, you can see we've got the achievements for the actual scenarios themselves in there. And there's 5 games, various points levels. I think we've got 1,000 points for the first one, 2 1,600 point games, kind of harkening back to the original Warhammer Achievements points limit, and then 2 big games on the Sunday, a 2,000 and a 2,500 game.
Love it.
And then of course the other thing that's fun that I enjoy is changing the scenario from actually getting a little bit of design into the scenarios to make it look attractive. Just, why not? So we can go in and have a little play around with that. And then the other big thing about the event, and this came about mostly last year, because previously we used to do just sort of standard terrain. But last year I decided to go the Holy Hammer sort of Holy Hammer
the
route
map
and
thing.
and do the actual tables and the maps and the sort of specific table rules. And we went kind of very much sort of in kind of homage to what Steve does at his events. Last year the tables did an awful lot. We had secondary objectives that were in all the tables, and all of the different tables and scenery have sort of scenery rules. And we had a secondary objective which we decided to remove this year, just because we found we were keeping track of so many things that it was want to try and simplify it down. And with the increase in players, actually, I think that was probably a good decision. We'll see how it plays out this year. It's one of those things that changes so often. You can't really judge how it's going to go. But I'll just have a flick through here. People can see the sort of the tables and the scenery. And it's hard to kind of get a look at how big some of the scenery is because of the
how
angle,
many tables do you have?
At the moment, so in here, I think we've got 9 in this one. So I've got 9 so far that I've put into there. I've got another 3 that I've done so far. I've got 3 luckily, it's one of those things. The wargaming community is so sort of generous and willing. I've got some guys, Steve Foote. I'm sure a lot of you guys listening know Steve. He came to the event last year, and this year he's going to bring 2 or 3 of his own tables with him, and we're going to use those. And Ben Johnson as well has done 3 tables for me with all of his scenery. So managed to boost the number of tables with some help from some of my friends, which is great. So I fully appreciate that, and it's going to lead to the event being hopefully even better than it was last year, which will be great.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty. I mean that pretty much in a nutshell is how the event runs and what we do. And we're just trying to build it. Build Blood and Glory as a real kind of UK convention, something that's going to celebrate all of the Games Workshop games that we all know and love. I mean, we've got. I'll just come back off that screen share. Is that gone? No.
Yep, you're good.
Am I back on everybody else?
Yep, you're good.
So we're looking to carry on and build it up. We've got Titanicus going on this year,
nice,
which should be really interesting to use. Obviously, Games Workshop are coming along again to live stream the 40k and the Age of Sigmar stuff, which is going to be terrific. We've got side events going on in the evenings. We've got a couple of new things going on. We've got Ben's been selling what he calls Iron Man tickets. So people can buy a ticket and it covers 4, I think it's 4 events they can do. 2 events on a Friday, one of the main tournaments, and then an evening event on the weekend. And then there's like a special Iron Man attendees medal, and they're going to get a prize for whoever does the best over the course of all the 4 events.
Nice.
As well. So there's so much going on.
So jealous. Like, man, I hope they do that at Adepticon. I am totally in. Totally in.
Yeah,
so,
it's going to be... Sorry, go on, Vin.
No, I was just going to say, so here's my question. Let's imagine a future world where we have a AOS kill team thing. Could be anything. Let's say, for example, it was to be a game called, like, I don't know, like Deathburg or Mordenheim or something like that.
Or
right?
Mordenheim.
Yeah, yes. I'm just imagining some crazy world, right, where that exists. Would you see a world where you would tie in some of those games into the broader spectrum? Could you maybe lace that in or have a pre-game of that or a post-game or a side thing tying that into your achievements? Would you love to see that happen in there somewhere?
Yeah, I think there's loads of things. I mean, there's all sorts of things we've considered and thought about, and we've we scale the games up a lot in terms of the points and things like that. So in a kind of like a skirmish element, absolutely fun. A nice, you could use it as an icebreaker kind of thing. You could use it as a way of drawing all of the players' characters and stuff together, maybe later on in the event, so they all end up somewhere, and play through it that way. One of the things, another one of the new things we're going to trial this year is I've started making my own Arcanoscope. I don't know if you guys have seen the picture that's in the rule book, but it's got all the realms of magic on. So
Sure.
Yeah, so I've started making one of those that actually spins and moves around. And each of the players is going to be put into a team or a faction, and they're going to get given kind of like little crystals throughout the game. So depending on how they do in the games, they get given a crystal, and they can choose to either keep the crystal, or they can put the crystal into their sort of faction pot on the Arcanoscope. And if they keep them for themselves, then they can use them in the games. If they put them in the pot, then everybody on their faction gets a benefit, but not quite as good. And at the end of the event, whichever faction has got the most, all of the players kind of get a little bonus to their achievement list at the end. So kind of forcing a little bit of, maybe forcing a little bit of cooperation. It'll be interesting to see how that works and what they choose to do.
Nice.
Encouraging, soft incentive.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it works. I'm sure it'll be entertaining. Every time we try something, we've tried things that haven't worked before, but they've still been entertaining, even when it's a bit of a disaster. So
at least you keep trying. No, that's a good. It's a really good lesson for people out there running events and tournaments. Which is, sometimes when you try things, they will fail, but you'll still learn something, and then maybe you refine that thing and it works the next time, or maybe you ditch it, but you do a different thing that also has interest, right? Like there's, that's a really good lesson,
because we found, we sort of pushed the boundaries of what you could do with the tournament. And I think it was the third one, we had some scenarios that just, when we tested them, because I do tend to play test them all, not to any huge rigorous degree, but try and play them 2 or 3 times just to see what's going on. But you still find that even in small tournaments, some people will just go, "Oh, that one wasn't any fun whatsoever because the player did this," and we were like, "Oh yeah, didn't see that come in."
Right, sure.
And we kind of pushed it, and then we had one event where a lot of the guys were like, "Yeah, it was good, but it was nowhere near as good as the year before because you just put so much stuff in." So then we started to pull stuff back away again, and you kind of have to. It's like finding that balance, which I think is quite tricky. Hopefully, we're gonna come a little bit back this year, but with more players, hopefully that should make it run nice and smoothly. For me, the worst part is data entry, obviously, but
sure. Well, awesome, man. Anything else you want to touch on with it? Obviously, I'll link everything for Blood and Glory down below, as well as out to, and that'll have all the information to Warhammer Achievements, all of that. I suspect you already know if you're going, but if you're going to be in the area and you haven't signed up yet,
well, I was going to say, if people will still, the Age of Sigmar event, we've still got, places are, I'm not going to say limitless, but they're pretty much close to being, pretty much close to limitless, because the venue that we play in, which is part of Derby College, is an old engine shed with a giant turntable on the floor. So if you imagine how big one of those turntables is, with all of the 8 or how many spokes going off it, the room is massive. It's a stunning little venue stunning big venue to play in.
Yeah, it really is like a gorgeous setting for a game. Like I've seen the pictures, from previous years. Obviously, I've never been, but it was freaking amazing looking. So that's awesome. I will link all that down below. So check it out, and you should be there if you can be. Don't be. What else have you got to do with your life at that time of the year? Nothing. You've got to go to this tournament.
Yeah, first weekend in November.
There you go. Exactly. So, I mean, first weekend in November, what else is going on? Nothing. It's a couple weeks before the holiday. This is your chance to get some good warhammering going on before the craziness of the holiday season begins. That's what I say. There you go.
Let me just jump in. The first weekend of November is Holy Havoc.
Yeah, I know. That's
so. If you're looking for a sister event that's like this, but a little bit different, Steve Herner and the Holy Hammers in the Chicago area host Holy Havoc It's a team tournament that Vince and I are going to be at. It's very similar. They don't have the achievements, but the tables are very elaborate. It's a narrative driven. There'll be like both small team, large teams. And I believe there's a wait list for that y'all can check out as well if you're here.
Yeah, I was going to say, the only reason I wasn't spruiking it as hard is because Holy Havoc's already sold out. Yes. And there's a wait list. But it's a good point. You should get on the wait list. Yes. Sometimes those open up. So there you go.
Yes.
There you are.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So gentlemen, let's head to the workshop. First time we're doing this, we're going to do our little mini segment here. We're going to go in the workshop. And today, specifically in the workshop, we're going to talk about Tzeentch heroes. So Steve, you had a bunch of birds. Famously, you have very bright, colorful birds. Okay, you have a whole flock of seagulls, as it were. Okay, but it's a new world. Your birds are all basically 380 points now. They're expensive. It's hard to get that many birds into a list. So we're going to talk about what we think are the options for Tzeentch heroes. So Tom, I thought maybe you would light the tire or light the fires and kick the tire, whatever Doom says. I don't know. Start us off. However Doom says that.
Okay. And right. So what exactly are you asking?
So what we want to talk about here is, what are your hot picks, fun picks, things to stay away from, a sort of best, worst, and fun within the scope of Tzeentch heroes? When you think about a Tzeentch list and you think about the heroes leading that force, who are your A's, your F's, and your F's for fun? I don't know.
Yeah, so my go-to Tzeentch hero now, by far, like right out of the gate, the first person that I run to that would likely have a place in basically any Tzeentch list I build, is actually going to be the Curseling.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Curseling is clocking in at a very affordable point cost. Is he 160? He went up 20. Is that right?
Is that correct? He's 160.
Yeah. Yep. He's 160. He's a double caster.
He is, in fact, a double unbinder.
And a double unbinder. And he has the ability to reach out 24 inches and like steal spells from folks. Like with his Glean Magic. And which would let him like gain spells to cast. And on his unbinding, when he successfully unbinds, like he can immediately cast a spell he unbound. We are in an age where magic is really popular, especially with realm spells. And so he is what he's doing. And in my mind, he actually makes personally a perfect pick for general for Tzeentch. Simply to give him that extra unbind range.
Oh, you're saying actually give him the command trait.
Yeah, give him the command trait because that allows him to push that unbind range. The new rule, it's no longer double, but it's like an increased 12 inches. Is that right on the unbind?
It's some kind of increased range, but I don't know. I don't remember.
It's 12. Yeah, so that pushes his unbind out to 42 inches.
Okay.
And so like he just has lots of, and he can go up on a Balewind so that 24 inch like Glean Magic that he seals spells, he can go up on a Balewind and push that out to 30 inches. And so he has tons of reach as a caster. And yeah, he's my favorite dude. Like right out of the gate, like I just love everything that he brings to the table. And he's fun. So this is why he's my first pick, is that he is competitive and I love what he's doing. Because he's stealing magic, he's unbinding and recasting, and he's changing how the game mechanics work. And what I mean by that is he's doing things that most people you don't normally see in the rules, and so he's creating just a really interesting game environment.
Sure. All right.
And no, Keith would have asked if he can steal endless spells. Initially he could, but he cannot. Right.
Yeah, they clarified that he cannot. Yep.
Yep.
That those are a different thing. Yep. But that's okay. He still is, perfectly decent at dealing with them in the normal way because he is a double caster. And so double casters can use one of their casts during their turn to obviously burn off an endless spell that's on the table and then still actually have a spell to cast, which is helpful.
Absolutely. Right? So I love everything that's going on with the Curseling. Just all of it. Yeah.
It's a good one. It's a solid one. So, Steve, I'm going to flip it over to you, buddy, and say, so what else have you been looking at? What else has been on your mind? What grabs your eye in that? Like, Tzeentch has a lot of heroes.
Yeah.
It does.
Right? It's a huge leadership section.
I think, so what did I do? I played, I had a little test game. We were testing out one of the Warhammer Achievements scenarios, actually, Warhammer World the other night. And I had a little run out of the Ogroid, Thaumaturge.
Yeah,
man. And I've used him a couple of times now, and I found him to be interesting as a character. He's got one of those, off the back, he's quite, you look at him and think he could be quite fighty, which is unusual for a hero.
Right.
Sure.
You can put
especially for a Tzeentch hero, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's got 8 wounds and he's got some good attacks. What I found is that he tends to either miss completely, or he'll, he's either going to be good. He's very swingy. He's going to be good or not good. Made me think about running. Funnily enough, it made me think about running more than one. Actually, having maybe running 2 or 3, and actually using them almost as a unit that would fight. But that's something to maybe experiment with later. But got a lot of useful little things that initially I forgot about. So you get the mortal wound when he charges in, which I really like.
Yep.
A nice way of cleaning out last wounds or models. You think, I can go in there, do a little cheeky extra bit of damage on there. And then, of course, he summons Brimstone Horrors. Well, in fact, actually, any type, doesn't he? Pinks, blues, or brims?
Well, I think he's just brims now.
Is he just brims now?
He used to be any. Like, he was one of the magic bullets in my cheaty list. Because he could keep bringing pinks on, but he can't do that anymore.
Yeah, but even so, being able to bring in a unit of, well, I mean, it's only going to be a small unit, isn't it? Sort of 3, 4, 5 guys, maybe if you're lucky. But you can position those to help you control space.
Absolutely.
Help boost the numbers on objectives, for example. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of sort of feasibility in it. So I like the look of. I like him, and I love the model. The model's great. The only thing, he's got one of those annoying abilities where if he takes loads of damage, he gets better at something. I don't like that. It's like I'd rather he just didn't take any damage at all. So
yeah,
ignore that. But and then of course all the you could add on some of the weapon options and things like that. You could give him the items that allow him to fly, move around a little bit more, because he's obviously not particularly rapid. You could give him the cloak that allows him to not be attacked into the doppelganger cloak, or the item that ignores Ren, things like that could make him a lot more survivable, because only the 5-up save is a real killer.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. I like him. I think he's what I'll say is I think he's pointed rather effectively. I'm surprised I don't see him on the table more. He's 180, which is not bad. He's like 20 points more than the Curseling, right? Right. But he is 8 wounds. Now, the 5-up save is with his big limitation, right? Admittedly. But still, he's rocking 8 wounds, which is not insignificant. He's a 6-inch move base, right? So he's not slow. You're right that he offensively, he's okay. He has like 3 attacks with Rend that are all multi-damage, and 4 attacks without Rend that are just 1 damage. So he does decent enough fighting by the standards of a 180-point hero, right? But to me, that spell, oh, by the way, he also heals every turn, right? He has a built-in self-heal. Right. Which is really unusual in Tzeentch to have models self-healing. There are not a lot of self-healing models in Tzeentch, if any other heroes. I'm trying to think of any other heroes that do it. But it's really his spell. Like, his spell to me is so potent. Just the fact that it does a D6 mortal wounds in a world of weaker arcane bolt, right? Being like, I don't think anybody has a question that Blood Boil is powerful, right? And you have a better chance of casting this than you do of Blood Boil when you're not in Gore Pilgrims. Like, that's simple math, right? Like, you're 50-50 on Gore Pilgrims. You're about 58% of being able to, 58 to 60% of being able to cast this every turn. It's on a 7.
Right.
So, like, I think it's a solid spell. It's a D6 mortal wounds. The fact that it then poops out some little brimstones, all upside to me. I love this dude. I think he's solid. And I agree with you. He is such a cool looking dude. And, you know, I think for the 5-up save, it's like you've just got to be really careful if you do put him into combat because he'll just get torn down by stuff, right? But if he's just kind of wandering around the edge, which is where I've tended to use him when I play him, people don't target prioritize him often in Tzeentch, right? There's usually something more scary on the table that he doesn't end up like. There's not a lot of shooting in the world in general right now, and he doesn't usually rise to the level of needing to be like gibbed by enemy spellcasters, so he can kind of operate right and just sit there and throw his little bombs. Yeah, I dig him. Hot choice. And also, it should also be pointed out that he is a mortal and an Arcanite, so he does have some fun overlaps there for things that care about mortal.
Yeah, and it lets him get actually the good defensive spell that lets him push wounds to a nearby unit. And so, like, he can put, like, so, yes, he's not real survivable, but, like, you could put the, like, the Treacherous Bond or whatever on him to, like, push those mortals onto, like, Chaos Warriors or whatever. That'll just shrug that stuff off. So.
Absolutely. All right. Good pick, man. I have a sideways pick. Everybody ready?
Go on.
I would like to talk to everybody about the Chaos Lord on Manticore.
Okay.
All right. And I'm going to have to shout out. I'm stealing this unashamedly from Caleb. Okay. I was at the tournament this weekend and I was watching him. And I said, and I noticed he had a Chaos Lord on Manticore in his Tzeentch list. I said, what are you doing with that thing? And he said, well, I have a fun thing with that. So the Chaos Lord on Manticore it's everybody knows what this looks like, right? It's the goofy Manticore model. It's 250 points. We're talking about a 12 wound dude who initially flies
chain cloak.
Chain cloak, exactly. 4-up save, 12 wounds, initially flies 12 inches. Most of his attacks are admittedly pretty out and out worthless, right?
Yep.
Because like he has a ton of not rend attacks, right? Like the Manticore itself has like -1 rend, and then everything else is just like no rend. So, however, so this guy can be kitted out in the following ways. It's really complicated. He can either carry a Demon Blade or a Chaos Flail, in one hand, and then a lance in the other. However, instead of the lance, he can either carry a Rune Shield or a Dagger Fist.
Right.
Okay. So, effectively, he's got several different options for both hands.
Right.
Now, I had admittedly always given him like either the lance or the shield, because the lance is like a 3 attacks on 3s and 3s, no rend, 2 damage, but on the charge it becomes 3 damage and goes to rend -1, which is actually
hold on. So the Demon Fist, does that kick out mortals on a 6+?
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah,
so
it gives them the paradoxical shield.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, I immediately knew where that went as soon as
So the Dagger Fist, the alternate thing that I never gave him, because I always either wanted the rune protection or the hard hitting.
Nobody wants the Dagger Fist. Yeah.
The Dagger Fist. Each time you make a successful save roll of 6 or more for a Chaos Lord on Manticore with a Dagger Fist, and the attacking unit is within 1 inch, he parries the blow and punches back. The attacking unit suffers a mortal wound after it has made all of its attacks. Yeah. So the trick here is you give him the Paradox Shield, the Tzeentch item, that gives you +2, right, to all of your saves, but you have to reroll successful saves. Okay.
Right. So that moves him to a 2-up. If he casts Mystic Shield on himself, he rerolls a 1-up. So that means that you always reroll all saves, and then you just kick back mortals on 4s and save on 2s.
Well, effectively, because you got to, with the way bonuses work, everything gets wonky here, right? But sure. The point is, you would like in many, even rerolling successes, even with the +2, unless he's fighting a very high rend guy, it becomes very easy for you to get that 6 or more, right? If you put him into the right targets, like some spam attackers with low rend, right?
Yeah, like a witch elf, like an unbuffed witch elf unit.
An unbuffed witch elf unit is just like a dream come true for this guy. He'll explode them in return, right? Because you'll just roll a bunch of dice, reroll a bunch of dice, and every 4 or more is a mortal wound back, right? So it's just like just dead, just mortal wounds start raining everywhere. And I thought that was such a funny combination because of that silly paradox. I've always been a fan of the Paradox Shield. So yeah, there you go. I thought that was pretty
cute. Yeah, it's a cute combo. I like that.
Alternatively, okay, isn't there a realm artifact that when you make a save, it goes on a 6-up? It does a mortal wound back?
I don't know.
So almost certainly, if you think about the list of items, it's bound to be one.
Yeah. Hypothetically, there's probably one of those somewhere.
I'd have to go look and see for sure. I cannot remember for the freaking life of me. But, yep, there you go. Okay. Shard Fist Pelt. I knew it existed. Each time you make a save roll of 6+ for the bearer in the combat phase, the attacking unit suffers 1 mortal wound after all the attacks have been made. So it effectively grants Dagger Fist, right?
Yeah.
So for maximum fun, we go to my other quick choice that I'm going to roll right into, which is the Fate Master.
Yeah.
Okay. So with the Fate Master, this little doofus at 120 points, also rocking a 4-up save. He adds 2 to the result of any save rolls for this model in combat unless the attacker can fly. So if you want to get at this same thing cheaper, right, you go the other way around and you give him the little Shard Fist Pelt. Or you could do both, by the way. You do get at both these guys. And like, as long as you have 2 artifacts on the list, which isn't that hard. And then you just stick him into non-flying guys and he'll do the same thing. He'll reflect back on rolls of 4+. So you can have 2 heroes, both reflecting mortals on a 4+ back into anybody they go into. So fun times.
As an ancillary, since we're talking about ridiculousness, bonus points for the Stormcast player who throws one of those pelts on a Star Drake who has Staunch Defender and
the Mirror Shield.
The Mirror Shield. Or no. You have to help for the item. So you do Staunch Defender and you do a Castellan. So you're also reflecting on 4+. And the saves that you're re-rolling, you're also reflecting. So you're double reflecting mortal wounds, because they get the reroll ones.
Because if you reroll, if you reflect and protect, save or whatever with the shield,
yeah. So you could kick back on a rerolled save, you could kick back 2 mortal wounds on a 4+.
Sure. So anyway, yes, if you really want to get into the wacky world of Tzeentch mortal wound reflection, there you go. There's your hero list. So with 2 items and those 2 guys, you can just have 2 dudes who are little porcupines. The porcupine Tzeentch list.
Yeah,
I like it. So Steve, have you got anybody else you're looking at here in this list? Who else jumps out at you?
Who else? Okay, go the old stalwart, the Zangor Shaman.
Yeah,
always a good one. Particularly the Sorceress Elixir ability, I quite like. So if you've got a big unit of you've got a big unit of Enlightened these days, or even a big unit, the ability to cast the Fold Reality twice and bring back, all of your models, rather than, if you unfortunately, you bring back 1 or 2, you think, actually, come on, let's rock this again and bring everybody back, or try to. I quite like that. I've not seen that done before, and I've certainly not tried it myself, but I was looking at that thinking, yeah, that's good. And the mobility on that guy is ridiculous. You want someone who can get around.
16-inch fly movement. He's all over the board.
Yeah, it's just absolutely. And again, Boon of Mutation.
Yeah, maybe one of the most broken spells sideways, because it. So let's talk about Boon of Mutation and why it's so sideways, crazy broken. Okay, I shouldn't say it. It's just bent. It's bent in all the good ways. It's Matchbox 20 bent. All right, you want to walk us through the spell?
So we cast a 7. So again, we've said it. It casts relatively simply. You're a Tzeentch player as well. And I think if you're a good Tzeentch player, you're using Destiny dice to make sure the spells you want go off.
Right.
So you're gonna, you can almost guarantee that you're gonna get it off. And what we got is visible units within 18, suffers D3 mortal wounds. Fantastic. It's not a bad thing at all. Always good to do that. And then you can add to a friendly Zangor unit within 6 inches, and it doesn't say what kind of Zangor.
Yep,
could you add a Skyfire or an Enlightened?
If there is you set up a new Zangor model if there's already a friendly unit. Well, it's not. No, it has to be the proper Zangor because it's not bolded. I was getting that.
It's not bolded. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter because it can be.
That doesn't matter. Exactly.
Boom.
You never want there to be friendly Zangor within 6 inches. You immediately clear everybody else out of your targets. You pick 1 wound units, and you set up Zangor standard bearers every time. Right. Because that generates 1 Zangor standard bearer around. And famously, Zangor standard bearers roll a dice for every wizard within range and then just poop out a bunch of mortal wounds. So you put yourself on the Zangor standard bearer machine, and you just start chunking those guys out of the factory line, and then they all start testing around all your wizards. Yep. Just broadcasting.
Yeah, it's just, now that we can summon models for free, the options, the new options that come out of the book are good, and I've not really seen people play it or talk about it that much.
No, I agree. Like I'm not sure I've heard anybody chat up that reality that we just talked about. The fact that you can just make standard bears, plop them in near your wizards, and then have them start, zapping, right? Yep. Just start zip zapping.
We identified it when this whole thing
dropped, I know.
But we were keeping it on the down low. Thanks, Vince. Thanks for doing all of it.
We're gonna slowly part out this Tzeentch list you've made over like 30 shows. We're gonna piece it out. Look, man,
we're ruining my Adepticon list for next year.
You weren't doing it. You're never gonna play it. Shut up. All right. No, that's a hot take. Tom, what else have you got? Who's some other people you like in here?
Yeah. I mean, I still think that Kairos is worth his weight.
At 380, you think he's still he's still good?
He's reliable. He changes that 1 dice that can be game winning. And he's still Lord of Change. He's doing all the things it needs to do. So I don't know. I'm a big fan of Kairos. I think that he's worth his points.
All right. So question time for the group.
Yep.
Does the Exalted Greater Demon, the big boy, have any purpose?
Nope.
I've never looked. I couldn't tell you.
So basically, the Exalted Greater Demon is 500 points, right? He's 20 wounds. Attack wise, he basically automatically has the staff, right? And his little curved beak and wicked talons, because he's a birdie. And he can fly. He has the standard Lord of Change, like I make my dice the highest dice trick, Mastery of Magic. He has Spell Thief. If his unbinding roll is 9+, then it knows the spell it's attempting to unbind for the rest of the game. He's a double caster like the birds. He has Infernal Gateway like the birds. I mean, he's kind of basically a Lord of Change, but more, right? But he is not insignificantly. He is not insignificantly more expensive. Yeah. I get it.
Is he Marathi?
No. I mean, and that's my point. That's why I'm trying to figure out, in what world is his 5 wounds worth it? And I don't know what the answer is. I really don't.
Yeah.
He has the same spell, the same Spell Thief, the same Mastery of Magic, the same double sorcerer, the same, double caster, right? He basically has the same attack profile.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, for 160 points more, you could take a normal Lord of Change and Kairos. Is that better?
Yeah, it is. Yep. Because they can be at 2 places on the battlefield. They get more spells. They can change the dice. They can. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's just so outrageously expensive. Now there is one slight advantage he has that if we don't mention it, we will be remiss. Okay. It is worth noting. So do you know how Infernal Gateway works? Their spell, they're famously extremely damaging spell.
Yep.
Okay. So Infernal Gateway is, if you cast a spell, it casts on a 7, which is obviously nothing to a Lord of Change, right? Because if either of the dice is a 4, it just happened.
Does he have a lower number, like a lower base number?
Yes. So you then roll 9 dice, right? And for every die that is higher than what it shows on the table, which is on the wound chart, right? So it gets worse. The more damage the Lord of Change is, the harder their Infernal Gateway is to do things, right? So the base Lord of Change, if he's unwounded to 3 wounds, it's a 3 or more, you do a mortal wound. So you're rolling 9 dice, every 3 or more is a mortal wound. Yeah?
Right.
Okay. So and then after 3 wounds, it goes to 4 up. So it becomes, significantly harder, right? The Exalted Greater Demon, who's at 20 wounds, he starts at a 2 up. And he has to get all the way down to 10 wounds on before he goes to 4+. Like, his Infernal Gateway remains quite potent. Now, it's actually at the same number. It's at the same real number. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, that is to say, you're counting from 20 to 10 versus 14 to 10. Right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, that is a lot more runway on Infernal Gateway.
And it's throwing 9 dice?
9 dice. It's still the same number of dice. Yeah.
So he'll auto do 7 mortal wounds, probably pretty reliably.
I mean, statistically, yes, he does 7 to 8 mortal wounds. Yes. 7 point. Which is, better-ish than where he's at, within where the other guy's at, right? Because the other guy's at basically 6. But that's it. That's the difference. We're talking about like 1.6 mortal wounds difference.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now, that's undamaged, right? Damaged, it changes very quickly.
Yep.
The math swings in the big boy's favor. That's his only real big advantage. I personally, I can't see it. Like, that's a cool thing, but woof.
Like, the cost is so high. The cost is
a lot of
so
points
high.
in a really expensive army, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, this army is not cheap anymore.
No.
I mean, no. And you need bodies. Yeah.
Right.
Is there merit, Tom? Is there merit, do you think, in stacking, trying as many double casters as you can find and seeing what you can summon as well?
I do. I think the gas. I think the gas in the Tzeentch army is summoning. Like, I don't think that they've seen it yet. Like, I don't think that anybody has really pulled it off yet. In a really grotesque way. At the end of the day, like Vince has already talked about, like the list that I had put together. But basically, the way that I see it, I think that there are tons of double casters, and there are tons of double casters that already summon things by the base spell. So the Magister summons Chaos Spawn. The Magister summons Chaos Spawn. The what's his face?
The Ogre Dominator suffers summons burning
or the Brimstones.
Thank you.
The Zangor Shaman summons Zangor. And so what people don't realize is that, like, if you set these up, because I think you can set these up outside of combat, right? Like, you can set these up at like the 4-inch mark because it's within 6 inches. So what these end up becoming is, like, you can't charge. Like, if you summon that and you don't charge that in, you're going to get at least one. You're going to get a 1-turn roadblock that they have to get around that one model that they can't go through. And so you can literally bog an entire enemy army down with a bunch of these 1-model summons all over the battlefield. And so, like, they're not going to go anywhere. They're gonna blow through them, but they're not going to go anywhere because they have to keep dealing with these dumb models. And
the whole time you're actually building fate points towards something. You're not just casting for no reason. All of this is also adding fate points toward real units showing up.
Every single cast is going to add fate points.
Yep.
And so I think that it would be, don't get me wrong, it would be one of the most annoying armies to play because it would be just infuriating to, like, your armies would get locked down and they'd have to fight like one model at a time.
Or a couple, like a handful of Brimstones.
Or
just
a handful
blocking
of
up a whole unit,
Maybe think about running, even with the points increase, running the 4 Lords of Change, because you can do, you've got your 8 spells, whatever your opponent casts, and you can then summon stuff on, so I've not got any models to start with, but first turn I can cast, because I can cast, and I don't have to be in range, I can cast, I don't have to be in range of anything to cast a spell. So you could stand at the back of the board, cast Gateway. It doesn't matter that you're not hitting anything because of the way, because you cast and then measure.
Yep.
So, I didn't realize you were 35 inches away. Sorry.
Yeah.
Looked closer. Optical illusion.
But like, let me offer a rebuttal and say, okay, you can do that. But for the cost of 1 Lord of Change, you get either because Lord of Change are 380 now, right?
Yeah.
You get either a Curseling or a Gaunt Summoner and a unit of Pink Horrors.
Yeah.
For that same cost. So you get 3 spells out of those 2 units. And you get, because those are double casters as well. And you get all your battle line. And so, like, I think that, and every time those Pink Horrors are dying, they're also generating more summoning points.
Yeah. And more models as well.
And more models. That's exactly right. And so I think that, I think that, like, this isn't to say that there's no room for a Lord of Change in that type of list. But I don't think, unfortunately, I don't think that the 4 Lord of Change is the right way to go. Now, if they were all triple casters, we might have a different conversation. Like, I think with that point increase, I really think they should have went to triple casters, personally. But yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
it's the world we live in. Tzeentch just got smacked because of it's like last season. Like, there's no other. Like, it is the inevitable the pendulum swing. And this is where
so the answer is, by the way, Tom, the brimstones have to be set up. Somebody put it in the chat, and they're exactly right. Yeah. The brimstones are within 1 inch of the unit targeted. The spawn is within 3 inches from the Magister, and the Zangor is within 6. So
okay, I was thinking the Zangor. Yeah, so I still think that you could clog up the lanes in a serious sort of way with summons.
Sure.
And I also, another honorable mention here is the warp. Your buddy Vince, the warp, the chaos, the big monster.
Oh yeah, sure.
Vortex Beast.
The Mutalith Vortex Beast, baby. Yeah,
because he's spitting out Chaos Spawn as well.
Sure. Yeah, if he rolls the 6, he does a D6 mortals and turns you into Chaos Spawn. Yeah, absolutely.
So
yes. Yeah, it's a shame you can't Destiny die that particular role. But Kairos could make it 6. Kairos can because Kairos can do whatever he wants with that 1 die. That's your 1 die. He can say that's a 6. So yeah, I mean, all in all, it's an interesting list. Like, I think there's still a lot of heroes, and what I'm most excited about, honestly, is to see, like, probably the right answer is to have like a Lord of Change and then a suite of these other heroes, right? Because there are many that are in fact very viable, and you still can have you still can have quite a host of like double casters and different and potent spells that can really put out heat, that can do some summoning, that can lay hot amounts of mortal wounds on stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, an Infernal Gateway match, backed up by a fireball out of an Ogroid, backed up by a whatever, like getting whacked by like 3 or 4 hits of those big mortal wound blasts are going to severely dent a unit, right?
Yeah.
Unless somebody's running like just the hordiest of horde type of things, where they're just like, yeah, whatever, who cares?
Like witch elves.
Sure, like that's your sort of nightmare scenario, like just somebody who's like all in with like with like a Hagnar, yeah, like witch elf.
I have no idea who would do that. That's just filth.
That is filth, yes. But yeah, or something like that. Like, or I'll give you another one, Tom, that's gonna be a thing in like 3 weeks. Okay. Sure. And that's when someone calls the herd.
Yeah.
Okay. Because like already at last year's NashCon, we saw what it looked like. David Fields, the guy who did that Council of Blood list that we talked about at the beginning, at NashCon, you bring 2 completely separate lists. His alternate list last year was 195 model Grey Herd army. Yep. Okay. And he just wrecked face with it because most people couldn't kill 195 things. That's so many bodies. Right. And
that's like Night Goblin numbers.
Yeah. And he would just like flood the board. Right. And by the way, like that was with crappy rules and all that stuff. Now, in a couple weeks, I feel like there's a book coming out that I'm guessing is going to support that to some degree, and will probably let you mix some Zangor hordes in with them Gore hordes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would be lying. Like if originally I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna pick up Grey Herds, and then I've been talking about wanting to do a Zangor army forever, and I saw that and I'm like,
sure.
Tell me more. Like that's a great conversion project because you could just end up doing everything in the even if it's normal gore, you could do a bunch of conversions and bring everything in line with the Zangor aesthetic. It'd be neat.
Yep. All right. Anybody else we want to mention? There's a bunch of fun heroes we didn't touch on, like changelings and blue scribes and all sorts of crazy stuff. It's a huge list. Any other final shout out you want to give here in our workshop?
Not from me. I think I'm happy.
All right. I think we've given people plenty of things to kit bash around and try. This is such a big hero list. Like it's crazy because before this conversation we were talking, I went through and actually added them all to an army in my app just to make sure I had them all for conversation. We haven't even touched on weird ones like Archaon, right? Who's technically in this mix. But there's just so much in there that it's that I really do encourage you to think outside the big bird. That's my best advice. There's a lot of fun, weird, different heroes, and a lot of fun, weird, different combos. The dual mortal wound reflection is a thing I'm going to do in a game, probably in a coming weekend in my home game, because I have both of those guys prepped up and ready to go. Famously, I have both the regular Lord on Manticore for Tzeentch and a Sorcerer Lord on Manticore and 2 Fate Masters. I'm a psychopath like that.
And it's funny.
It's funny to me to watch those guys just suicide bomb into people to basically pull the Jabber Slice maneuver, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think I need a couple Jabber Slice in the list too. Just call it
Suicide Bomber?
Just call it the Suicide Squad. Yeah. What are we, some kind of Suicide Squad? All right. So with that, Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure, buddy. I loved having you on for this. Thanks for sharing everything.
It's been lovely to come on again.
Absolutely. Like I said, look, the link down below will be there for Blood and Glory. Check it out. Check it out for all the Warhammer Achievement stuff. Steve has gone to the absolute mattresses with this. It's going to be an incredible event. Steve, we will have you back on either sometime after, or we'll be talking to somebody from the event after Blood and Glory, obvi, to break that down, because it's going to be an amazing event. I have no doubt. So for all of you out there, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this earlier in the day version of Warhammer Weekly. But as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.